The 2025 NFL Draft is finally here, and it's time to cash in with our best bets for Green Bay. All this and more. It's a brand new episode of the IBT podcast coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy calling Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. And after many months of speculation and evaluation, we are officially here on the week of the NFL Draft. We'll certainly chat all about that tonight from a gambling perspective. I'm your host, Seth Wilcock, and I'm roughly 48 hours removed from spending my Easter morning in the back of a Maryland McDonald's, sunburnt, slightly hungover, coming home from my brother's bachelor party just to fire off some NFL draft bets, turn a 3-hour road trip into a 5.5-hour one because, well, that's just what we do here at IBT when it comes to NFL draft betting. Tonight, we welcome back a delightful cast of characters to the program, including a man I assume who did not have probably as eventful of a weekend as I did, but still, nonetheless, a light ranch and big business son of a bitch, one who will soon owe me a case of Busch lattes when Tyler Warren goes top 15. Eric Romoff, what's good, Tex?
Man, I'm just happy you're not going to charge me points on that because I'm pretty sure Tyler Warren's going like top 8. So I'm going to get firmly dog walked on that wager. But this is all just the price of admission, right? This means that we are within arm's reach of the NFL draft, which is maybe one of the most exciting nights of any sports offseason, especially in the context of it just being people reading off names at a podium. Like it is the least involved of all of the offseason events, yet the pomp and circumstance around it just draws you in. Every single minute is riveting.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the fun part of it too, is like you hear the pick, you get that 1 second of excitement, and then like it's like, all right, we can yeah, chill out a little bit, regain your bearings, get something to eat, go outside, smoke a dart. Like you can kind of take it with you, if you will, So, but Eric, glad to have you back in house once again, to be breaking down some of your best bets for the draft tonight. We're also joined by a man who, word on the street, he is ready to wager all his frequent flying miles in this very episode on a bet in house. Our entertainment and NFL betting pundit here at IBT, Boston's boy, Steve Lawson. What's up, Steven?
Not much, man. Say my name and I appear, because I was in Cleveland just this morning and I got up at the way before the crack of dawn, actually. 3:30 a.m. I've been running since. I'm doing well, man. I want to give a quick shout out to my alma mater, though, using my time and my intro. Florida State, we had a rough go of it this week. We had an active shooter. People lost their lives. It's really sad. But in Florida State fashion, in the way that I love that school so much, people rallied. People stood strong. We stood together. Thank you to everybody who, like all the first responders, though, who got involved, got people to safety. The professors, the people on the outside of campus really did a great job. But I just wanted to throw some love out to my Florida State Seminoles. And I am ready to talk some draft. I am ready to be here with you guys. Even though I've been running for nearly 24 hours straight with no sleep, I am here for it.
I appreciate you, Steve. That's why we love you and appreciate the grind that you bring to the IBD podcast each and every single week here. And yeah, shout out to everyone down there in Tallahassee, man. Tough scene over the past week or so. And like, dude, we just got to stop fucking doing this shit. Like, I don't really know how else to put it, man. Like, I hope, I think we all hope our future children and our current children can live in a world where they don't have to fear to go to school or, do the basic things in life. So, and yes, absolutely. Thank you to all the first responders, man. That takes a different breed. So we appreciate you. Also, welcoming back to the program, the general manager of the show. I would say if we have to give someone that title, he's a Yinzer, he's a Ginger, he's the former IUP Crimson Hawk, behind the scenes producer Kyle Scott. Jim, how's it going out there in the Berg? I was just south of there this past weekend. Beautiful weather out there right now, pal.
Oh, yeah. It is gorgeous weather out here. Gorgeous for a lot of things. Enjoying some bad baseball, some mediocre football, maybe even some crappy hockey. The possibilities are endless out here in the Steel City.
Well, we appreciate you putting up with the bad Pittsburgh sports right now. We're on a comeback, though. I think like 2025 to 2030, those are going to be our half a decade. So just be ready for that, brother. Appreciate you being locked in with us. As noted on tonight's show, Between Bets, NFL Draft Edition, we'll share our full NFL betting card with you. Also, good news. That's our feel-good headlines from around the football and pop culture world. Shout out to the IBT family who's tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. So close to hitting our goal of 1,500 subscribers ahead of the NFL draft. If you can help get us there, we'd really appreciate it. Again, please also like this video if you enjoy this type of content. And looks like we got Ben hanging out with us already. What's up, Ben? Good to see you. I know we have a mock draft article Ben's working on here tonight, so we appreciate him not only doing some good work for us over on the site, but also helping us out over here on the program. We appreciate you, Ben. Also, be sure to check out the website for some more dope written content. And while you're there, get a ticket to Draft Night Out. That's our live fantasy football draft at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio this August. If you want to come draft with us and 200 of our best fantasy football friends, this is the event for you. We'll have a shot wheel spinning, giveaways going off, and everything in between. Link is in the episode description. Eric, I'm ready to go for this already. I feel like Draft Night Out should be here already. However, I did get the news over the past week or so that I will be moving this summer. So I'm going to be ordering some stuff. I think I'm just going to deliver to my brother. He already lives in the town I'm going to be moving to. So I'm like, I don't think I need all these other boxes coming with me unless you want to, fly in with you as you make the journey up, Eric.
Yeah, I will absolutely be your Huckleberry, right? So I'm happy to head up there. I might even just throw them onto my back and schlep it from central Pennsylvania over to Canton, Ohio. It's a great way to pass the time as we are counting down the days to Draft Night Out.
Last year, Steve, I give Eric the assignment. He's like, hey, yeah, I'm in Cleveland. I can pick up some of the draft boards from our great partners up there. Man shows up in an Uber, just absolutely pisses his Uber driver off. What was the line, Eric? What was the line?
Oh man, this guy was not thrilled that we were stopping and loading this up. He was not happy about the potential damage to his interior. Oddly enough, he had recently driven Stefon Diggs, who left his credit card in that Uber, so we were able to connect over that. But definitely took this dude's entire day away from him so that he could make a couple of stops on the way from Cleveland to Canton.
Look at this asshole, Steve. Yeah, big. Uber drivers do not like you, and then Steve does not get along with people on airplanes. Steve, better trip on the airplane. Good socializing with the person next to you this time.
Both to the land and back, I had nobody in my row. So
wow.
I talked to nobody.
What are the odds?
Yeah, it was. Well, when you fly out at 6 a.m., that sometimes happens.
Good for you. Good on you. That's a dream of mine. Never happened to me before. And when you take Spirit Airline, that shit's usually booked full. So you gotta roll with that.
JetBlue for the win.
JetBlue for the win. All right. Sounds good. Guys, let's go ahead. Let's jump into some between bets and start breaking down our NFL draft betting cards.
Between bets. Between bets.
All right, we're breaking down our best bets for the NFL draft. We're going to be looking at a few various markets, including specific picks, player draft position, head-to-head matchups, team to draft player, first position drafted by team, and to be a first-round pick, some exact order, and also first player drafted. Oh, I already said first player draft by position. Excuse me, we got a couple in there. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start with specific picks. I pretty much made up most of this market. So I'll just jump into my first bet here. Shedeur Sanders, number 3 overall pick. And look, the Giants need to put together a plan for the future, or Brian Dable and Joe Shane aren't long for New York, in my opinion. Like, I've mentioned this in the past, like Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, while hilarious in their own respects, great brands, they are not a plan for the future of the New York Football Giants. And sure, like I get the arm talent with Shedeur Sanders is not elite, but the processing and football IQ is, I would argue, and that's met with the highest completion percentage in college football history. So we heard from NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, the Arrow. He reported earlier yesterday that there's no team that's done more work on one player in the draft than the Giants on Shedeur Sanders. Practice, games, the Colorado Showcase. Not only did they do another private workout with him last week, also took him out to dinner again as well in New Jersey. So I'm not buying the smoke that the Giants are fielding offers for number 3. I think that's a recipe, potentially lose your job. I think you either have to stay at 3 and pick Abdul Carter, or you pick Shedeur Sanders. Don't get cute, try to trade back, and then miss out on Sanders altogether. So I'm playing this that I believe Sanders is going off the board at 3. Therefore, I'm also going to say Abdul Carter, number 4 overall pick, 10-1 here at FanDuel. I'm going about 0.6 of a unit on this one as well. Not the biggest bet by any means, but I think there is some value here because if Shedeur goes number 3, we're assuming Travis Hunter goes number 2, Cam Ward goes 1. That means Abdul Carter slides to number 4 overall. Maybe it doesn't happen as he is heavily juiced to go number 3 overall, but I just think it's worth a pick here at 10-1. So, I think if the Giants aren't picking him, and he will still go 3 via trade potentially as well. So just in case that doesn't happen, though, give me a little 10-1 here on Abdul Carter. Eric, what are your thoughts on kind of my, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, right? Like I'm kind of pushing my chips into one scenario. Do you like that, or would you have rather potentially hedged in this scenario?
Yeah, actually, I think you're kind of successfully accomplishing both. Generally speaking, I think that there's a lot of value and a lot of upside to putting together a narrative and finding different ways to cover that outcome. And that's exactly what you've done here, right? Really, the only scenario by which Abdul Carter is going off the board at number 4 is one where Shedeur Sanders has gone either 2 or 3. So in the event that he goes 2, you're now hedged because Abdul Carter is still going 4th overall. And if he goes 3, now you're really printing it, right? You're swimming in that fine draft day gravy. So I really like the structure of these 2 bets. In terms of the bets themselves, we laid out the scenario where that has to play out for Abdul Carter to get there. I struggle with Shedeur Sanders at 3. I think this is a scenario where the Giants, I should say, should take him at 3, but I don't know if they will. I don't have a whole lot of faith in this front office to do the right and logical thing. If for no other reason, whether or not you want to, quibble about his tools and his skill set, that's fine. If you get the quarterback, especially this early in the draft, you are extending your runway. You have more time to develop him if you're Brian Daboll, if you're Joe Shane, right? And if they go out and get Abdul Carter, they may or may not have a job next year, even if Abdul Carter hits, right? So I think from a self-preservation standpoint, they should be drafting him, and I don't think they need to get cute and try to move out and come back up later and get him. Realistically, though, I think they probably let him slide and maybe even move back into the first round to address the position later on day 1.
How do you feel about this, Steve? Do you think this is something maybe I should have just invested like Giants to draft Shedeur Sanders, or maybe picked potentially another specific team? Or do you feel there is some confidence that he could go at number 3 overall and that plus 750 is worth the shot here?
So I'm torn, right? Because I'm kind of the opposite of Eric on this. I think it would be a very Giants move to take Shedeur Sanders at 3 rather than Abdul Carter, because he's wildly overpriced at 3, and I'm talking by like rounds, not even by picks. Like you have stretched so far. Like honestly, if you wanted a Shedeur Sanders type of player, you should have just drafted Jordan Travis last year and waited for him to get healthy. I mean, they're essentially the same guy. It's not elite talent around them.
I
Travis,
would not compare Jordan Travis to Shedeur, brother.
Nor would I.
but Jordan Travis led the most explosive offense in college football for 2 years in a row and was 13-0 and then blew his ankle out. I mean, and he was more athletic than Shedeur Sanders. Neither of them are elite arm talents. What are you getting in Shedeur that's worth a number 3 pick? Dion's name, I guess. That's about it. So I don't love this pick just because I think it's a bad pick. Also, I have heard, I'm kind of aware that Smoke this fire guy, and I'm hearing a lot of rumbling, lots and lots of rumbling around, even bets that I've laid down on our show here that people are almost certain Abdul Carter's going to the Giants at 3, and it's causing chaos at 4. So I'm kind of out on Shedeur Sanders 3. I think overall, I think the Giants are going to take Carter and just move on with their day.
Okay. So one more specific bet that Steve and I are kind of squad ride on here is Mason Graham, number 5 overall. And I will say, boys, like this has been one of my favorite bets the entire process. However, it looks like after the recent smoke came out that the Jaguars could go with Jeanty or Tet at number 5 overall. It looks like I have a dog shit number. I laid this Sunday morning again. I was sitting in the back at McDonald's. I looked like the freaking thing from Fantastic Four. My hands were all swollen up from being so damn sunburnt. And I'm out there just trying to grind and let a sausage McMuffin bring me back to life. And I see this glorious minus 115 bet out there for Mason Graham to go number 5 overall. And now you can get it plus 250. So, kind of fuck me on that one a little bit. But if you are still in a draft legal betting state, I would gladly hop on this plus 250 as well, because stopping the run was a huge problem in Duval last season. They allowed 132.6 rushing yards, 8th most per game, 8th most rushing first downs per game as well. And Graham's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, this is a guy who, while he's from Miami, has significant connections across the state of Florida. The Jaguars front 4 of Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines-Allen, 2024 second rounder Mason Smith, and then this consensus All-American Graham could be among maybe the most formidable in the league. So, maybe did they say look, we've had enough of Travis Etienne, we've had enough of Tank Bigsby, and they draft Ashton Jeanty, who's now minus 115 to go 5th overall. But I think that this could just be a young GM and James Gladstone trying to stir up some trade interest to someone to move up in front of the Raiders to go after the Boise State running back. So I'm staying in here with Mason Graham, Eric. I don't feel great about it. I laid several units down on this. This is kind of feeling a little bit like the Arian Smith bet from the combine a little bit, but we're riding, brother. We're riding. Any interest from you? Because I know Steve is riding with me.
Yeah, I mean, rip to your opportunity cost, right? I
no
think this
CLV,
is actually,
no CLV.
no CLV at all. Negative CLV. I think that this is the right call. It stinks that the markets move the way that they do, and now you can go get them for plus 250 when you're drinking a bit of juice in the card that you already have on file. But ultimately, I think a lot of what you said is most likely to be true. I don't think that we're going to see them pull the trigger on an Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty has been mocked to the Raiders at 6 by everyone and their mother this offseason. So the best way to get the most value out of your 5th overall pick is make them believe that they have to get in front of the Raiders to get this guy and that you have interest in him, right? So I do think that a lot of this is just the season of lying type of games that we have out there. Mm-hmm. I do think there's a philosophical question to be answered about whether or not the Jaguars and this new regime of Gladstone and Cohen want to invest in the offensive support around Trevor Lawrence to understand what they have in that player. But I don't know if they necessarily do that at pick 5 overall. I think the most likely outcome is they call Mason Graham's name. If not, they're probably moving back a half dozen or so picks, maybe more. Those would be my 2 favorite outcomes for the Jags where they sit.
Steve, you're riding with me, so you're pretty confident that, Mason Graham, who has been mocked here really since the beginning, I had him mocked here all the way back in January, that he is staying on course here to a one-way flight to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I am, because here's the thing. no one just discovered Ashton Jeanty. It's not like he had a great combine or something, and now we're hearing this rumbling. It's like 2 days before the draft, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we might go Ashton Jeanty instead. It's like, come on, like that's a
That
smoke
feels
screen.
smoke. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's a smoke
agree.
screen if
I
I've ever
agree.
seen one. Like, you suddenly got really on the Ashton Jeanty bandwagon, like as if he's this unknown prospect that just fell into your. No, dude, like, come on now. Plus, their running game wasn't all that bad. Was ETN good? No, Tank Bigsby was fine. I don't think that's where I think the Jaguars have learned their lesson, hopefully, in first round pick running backs. Because you don't like that.
They've done
If
it
I could-
twice since what, 2017? Leonard
If I
Fournette
could-
and then ETN. Yeah.
impart some wisdom to NFL GMs across the league. Running back is a position of luxury. If you are good or great and you're on the edge, that's when you draft a running back. That's when you invest in a running back. If you suck and you've always sucked, you don't invest in a running back with
They're
the
not
5th
gonna
overall
save you.
pick.
Yeah.
They're not saving you. Ashton Jeanty, as great as he is and as great as he will be,
Yeah.
will do exactly for you what Saquon Barkley did for the Giants. And look at what the Giants have done since they've had Saquon Barkley. They've drafted in the top 10, like basically every year. It doesn't make a difference. It's not a needle mover for a bad team. This is a bad
You mentioned
team.
the word invest. If they were to draft Ashton Jeanty with the 5th overall pick, he would immediately be the 8th highest paid running back in all of the NFL. Like,
Yeah, that's
the economics of this are just completely on its ass if they actually put that card in.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about Jeanty in just a little bit here. So.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and let's go there. Steve, Ashton Jeanty, you were taking the over 6.5 draft position at 3-1 at DraftKings. So what? You don't think the Jaguars or the Raiders are taking him?
I don't, because they both have so many more needs than the running back position. I expect both teams to either I think Mason at 5 to the Jags is almost a lock. They need that. I think Tet at 6 makes a lot more sense for the Raiders than
You've
Jeanty.
been saying that. You've been saying that for a while.
Like, I'm a Tet McMillan fan. I think you signed Geno Smith, you signed him to an extension. You clearly want to do that. If Shedeur Sanders isn't there, then you got to go with the wide receiver and help Geno Smith out. I do think because of Tom Brady's presence, if Sanders is there, and I guess I wouldn't sleep on Jaxson Dart either, they may draft and develop a quarterback because Tom Brady has outwardly said that his issue with the NFL currently is that no one allows their quarterbacks time to develop. They don't allow them to sit and learn and figure out the game before going in there. And I think that's something that the Raiders would be willing to do. I think Pete Carroll understands as well. Like, people are like, oh, well, he's not going to sit for a rebuild. They're going to go get Jeanty. He understands the value of a running back, where you can get value for a running back. He knows you need receivers or defense. I mean, Pete Carroll really is a defensive-minded guy.
Sure.
So to sit here and say, like, they're absolutely going with a running back, that's a hard sell for me. That's a really, really hard sell to get behind, that the Las Vegas Raiders, who are terrible, are going to invest in a running back. I just think
seems like a Raiders move, though, dude. It really does.
But I think we have these new regimes in there. And I mean, if Brady has any say in this, he has never had a running back behind him who's been like a first round pick besides Sony Michel at the end of his Patriots career. So he knows you can find diamonds in the rough. He knows there's a billion running backs out there. I don't think Jeanty lands there. I think he winds up closer to 10 with the Bears.
Okay. Eric, you're also squad riding with Steve on this over on Jeanty. Similar reasons, or is there a different play that you're drawing up?
No, by and large, the same line of thinking, right? Just categorically, I think it is absurd to draft a running back this high, regardless of how well they profile, right? I don't think that the teams that have earned these picks are in a position where the running back is going to move the needle to them, much to the point that Steve made when we were discussing this idea with Jacksonville at pick number 5. So I don't think it's a logical choice, but he mentioned one word in particular, I guess one phrase, new regime, right? You look at Pete Carroll, and he doesn't have this long history of spending top draft capital to go out and get a running back. You look at Tom Brady, right? Steve obviously illustrated that point perfectly. You also talk about John Spytek, the new general manager for the Raiders, right? A guy that really hung his hat on going out and finding Bucky Irving late, finding Rashad White late, right? Like, there are just so many players that are ultimately part of this decision that have almost no track record of investing this type of capital in the running back. So I would be shocked if they do it now, especially considering how many holes they have up and down this roster. There are so many places they need to address before they're talking about a new back.
Yeah, I understand the logic. I mean, you guys are dead on, honestly, and kind of making me rethink myself. But I'm still in for the Raiders to draft Jeanty. This, before, this is another bad number I have. Honestly, I had even money, which at the time I thought was great because this was minus 150 everywhere else for them to go with Jeanty when I was down there in Maryland to grab this number. And now this is now you can get this at plus money, but I think there's been so much steam for this for a good 2 months. And with a running back room as bad as the Raiders, and I completely agree that I think Tom Brady and I think this entire front office is not the type that would maybe do this move. There's one man who would do this, and that's Mark Davis, man. Like this is what this guy is always kind of,
baby.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what he wants to do, right? Like he wants to add flashy players like who will forget Darius Hayward-Bay back in the day over to Michael Crabtree. Like this is a guy who can get enamored with physicality. He can get enamored with, freak athletes. And that's what Ashton Jeanty is. Everyone that I've heard that has seen this guy in person says like, dude, like he is rocked up. Like he is different. He's a different cat. So I'm gonna put my money that the Raiders do go up and draft him at 6, but I totally understand where you guys are coming from. And Eric, take us back to the over under. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I'm also thrilled that the word cat has made it back into the vernacular when describing people. Like that's just wonderful. That
Hey man, yeah, you gotta take from the previous decades, brother. Always. What cat? When did that come out? When do you think that was?
About 2 decades before Eric came out. Like it
like
was,
80s, 80s. You think like 80s people are saying that?
Yeah, probably the 70s.
I think it's more like a 60s, 70s kind of window.
Like it feels like a very hippie kind of, like cool cats,
Yeah, it's true.
Cool cats and kittens.
Eric,
that predates all of us.
Throwing it back to you, Eric, for take us back to the over-under player market. I know you had one more for a defensive player.
I do, and before I get there, what I will say is I can't fully hate your Ashton Jeanty ticket. Like Steve and I are getting plus 300 odds for a reason, right? Like this is not in a vacuum. There is a price.
It's a good number. It's a good number.
Right. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. I don't follow the breadcrumbs to.
If Eric and I were the GM of both those teams, neither of us would do it though.
Yeah.
But clearly, sitting here right now, neither of us are GMs. If I was the GM of a team inside of the top 11, I would probably be taking a long, hard look at Will Johnson. Right now, he's got a line of 11.5 as a draft position. I like this one to come into the under. You can get that at plus 320 over at Caesar Sportsbook. And a lot of this is really just about outs, right? Many NFL front offices have Will Johnson as their cornerback one if you're kind of setting Hunter into his own thing. Sure. And you start looking at these teams that are picking at 7, 8, 11, 10, right? Like a lot of them have legitimate need at the cornerback position. So I mean, by my count, I've got 5 teams that are cornerback needy drafting inside of the top 11. Not to mention that Will Johnson is a very popular selection in the consensus mock drafts out there for the 11th overall pick, the San Francisco 49ers. So I think that there are too many ways that this can come to pass for this price tag to be plus 320, right? If this was plus 150, 160, it might be something I walk away from, but there are so many teams that need it where they're drafting. There are probably several teams that are going to be looking to move up a couple of picks to ensure that they get their guy, right? So there are too many ways for this one to be sitting at plus 320.
I get it. Like I see both sides of the coin. Like I personally think Miami at 13 with their secondary and probably going to like I think that is probably where he lands, but at a 3 plus 320 price tag, I don't mind taking the shot. It's just like I understand why he's falling right now. Like really he kind of has been lately. the steam has not been there for this guy. And like, it's easy to see why. Like, he didn't play half the year for Michigan. We don't really know if it was that significant of an injury. We were getting in the world of college football injuries, you don't get, specifics. But however, I will say that Michigan is one of the most transparent. They've always been, and it felt like they were expecting Will Johnson to come back. He didn't. And then he tests really poorly too. So I think there's a lot working kind of against Will Johnson. I wouldn't be surprised if he did slide a little bit, but at plus 320, it's a really good play because I think there are, some teams that do need cornerbacks, specifically the San Francisco 49ers at 11. So I don't hate that. Steve, round us out of this market with an offensive player that you believe is going to go under their mark as well.
Yeah, this is a guy who I've talked about for, I feel like a month now, maybe more. Jaxson Dart, under 24.5.
That's moved. That's moved. That was 21.5, just or 20.5 just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and I don't understand why it moved. Because if you're Pittsburgh and he falls to you at 21, I mean, no brainer. Aaron Rodgers still hasn't done anything. He hasn't signed. And now we're getting all this talk that the Saints are like enamored with this guy. Like, they fell in love with Jaxson Dart.
Yeah.
Like, that's their guy. They want him. They have him as like I'm hearing rumors that he's their QB too, that even if it's him and Shedeur Sanders on the board, they're still going Dart. I mean, if they don't go Jeanty, they probably go Dart. And like, with Derek Carr's shoulder injury, like, there's all of a sudden all these QB needy teams picking well under 24.5. And I just am very confused as to why this has moved so much. I have gone on record saying that this is my QB1 in this class. Overall, I have him over Cam Ward. I have him over Shedeur Sanders. I have him over everybody. Only because I think the intangibles are there. I think the things that I look for in a quarterback are there more so than everybody else. But for a vertical offense like the Saints want to be under Kellen Moore, this makes a lot of sense for him to be able to come in, maybe take a year to develop, maybe not, who knows. Or Pittsburgh, again, probably a vertical scheme with DK and George Pickens. Jaxson Dart's good at that. I just feel like Jaxson Dart is the guy. He's going to go top 21 almost for sure. And so I'm very happy getting plus money to just steal from them.
Yeah, it's super interesting, man, because like you have two caveats here. You have one that the Saints just recently became like a very likely destination for a quarterback with the Derek Carr injury. That kind of shuffled things up. But at the same time, you've had Shedeur's line, which has been dropping. That was at 3.5 a couple weeks ago. And now that's when we did our early preview. Now that has dropped to 8.5, which has caused Jaxson Darts to drop. And we're kind of hearing out of Pittsburgh from Jerry Dulac, Mark Caboli, Ed Bouchette, and the boys that, hey, it's not given that Pittsburgh is going to take a quarterback with their first pick. If anything, they might be more likely to trade back in at the end of the round to go after someone like Dart, to go after someone like Milroe. So I agree. I think it's great value, Steve. I think it's great value.
Pick, can I ask, is the 25th pick the Rams?
Yes.
Is that why? All right. That's yeah.
Yep.
No,
actually,
the
they're
Texans
26.
are 25.
They're 26. They're
Yeah,
26.
Rams are
Sorry.
26.
Yeah. So you would think it would be 25.5, but yeah.
Right. That makes no sense either.
Well,
this is a bad line. I'm sorry. This is just a bad line. I think this is a real fuck up by the draft, like the books.
I'm surprised it's not lower. I don't know if it comes, but I don't know if it cashes, but I think it's a great value.
I think it should be lower. If nothing else, we are underscoring what will be one of the best storylines of Thursday night, if not the entire NFL draft, right? Because really what this is, the reason why we see this fluctuation, as Steve so eloquently laid out this point, there are so many teams that should be interested in a player in the caliber of Jaxson Dart or even Shedeur Sanders. It sounds like I have them closer together than Steve does. But ultimately, everyone is in agreement that there is a tier break after Cam Ward, right? So we now have all of these teams ostensibly playing chicken, right? Who is going to let these two guys fall further down the board before they jump back in and say, all right, let's go get our guy now, right? And because those things move dynamically, it has the markets all over the place. And whenever the market is confused, that's usually where you can hop in and take advantage.
Yeah, that's pretty much right where I am with. I'm also taking the under on Shedeur Sanders at 8.5. Again, we touched on this a couple weeks ago in our early look ahead that I was taking the under at 3.5, and then when I finally got down there, it was still 8.5 at plus 260 at DraftKings, which feels like good value. And like I still think he's going to the Giants at 3, so I have that coverage there, but I'm still in the green here. If a team like, who's to say the Carolina Panthers are totally sold on Bryce Young if Shedeur Sanders doesn't slip to them at 8? Who says that Las Vegas Raiders are willing to completely go away from Shedeur Sanders? At one point, we had Mark Davis and Shedeur linking up at Las Vegas Aces games. Like, I think, and who says like someone doesn't call the Jets if the Jets are willing to move, and you don't see too many interdivision trades, but maybe Miami gets a hold of someone and says, hey, we've had enough of Tua, or maybe Omar Khan, the con artist, is like, look, dude, I'm not doing this like Kevin Colbert used to. Let's get ballsy and let's trade up and go get our guy Shedeur. So I just think 8.5. It's a lot of picks to go without Shedeur Sanders. I get he's the most polarizing prospect in maybe a decade, but I also think the guy's got a lot of moxie, and so I'm going to go with the under there. I'm also going to take us into our head-to-head matchups in matchups market, and this is something really cool, guys. Like, this was really cool because I love betting head-to-head matchups in motorsports, so was thrilled to find it here in the NFL draft betting markets as well. And there's no way the Alabama linebacker Jihaad Campbell should be the underdog against North Dakota State's inside offensive lineman Gray Zabel. Mock draft database's expected draft position for Campbell is 19, although there is some variance in that because he does have some type of shoulder injury that has seen him go all the way early as, top 10 and then outside the top 25 as well. So a lot of variance with someone like Campbell. However, Zabel, I think, has a very, very low floor because while his expected draft position is in the mid-20s, I think it's like that's the ceiling, right? Like, I think that's probably where he could cap out at, just because not only is he fighting against that small school narrative, played in the FCS, but also he's an interior offensive lineman, which generally just don't garner the same draft capital. So I just think it's weird to see Campbell at plus 140 when I thought he would be maybe closer to minus 140 as a favorite. Steve, any thoughts on Campbell versus Zabel here?
Yeah, injuries are such a weird thing, right? Because once a player's on a team, they downplay injuries like crazy, right? It's like, oh, it's not that bad. Look, we just got reports of Christian McCaffrey, right? It's like no restrictions whatsoever. I am ready to go. Once you're on a team, your injury does not matter. Before you land on a team, boy, they will hold that against you like you murdered somebody. And there is a real chance that teams do. If that shoulder injury, if a doctor even looks and goes, not sure. Like, I'm like 90% sure he's fine, but 10% sure he's not. They'll be like, nope, take him off the board. He's a red. Like, absolutely not. NFL teams are way cautious with injuries with draft picks. So I could see why he could fall. But yeah, to fall that far. I mean, I had him mocked to the Colts like, what, a week ago? Right? And they're like 14. I don't see an FCS guard.
You're right. Yeah, right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, what are we talking about? Like, this is a stud linebacker versus, like, I don't know. It just gives very Cole Strange vibes to me. Like, when the Patriots drafted him, like, and everyone was furious. And now we're just sitting here like, all right, I guess.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Gray Zabel, I think, is an absolute stud for a guard, but
Can we just all right, I'm sorry, and maybe I'm just tired and cranky, but can we stop saying every single like draft prospect is a stud though? Is he a stud, or is he fine and like it's just a bad draft?
When you're looking at interior offensive linemen, I think he's really as good as it gets. But then again, I ain't watching a shit ton of FCS football.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm
right?
watching the championship and.
Everyone wants to be so nice, right? And be like, they are studs. Yeah,
but showed up at the Senior Bowl, showed up at the NFL Combine, did what he needed to do. But I do understand. I do understand where you're coming from, though. You 100% like
he's fine.
Yeah,
he's fine. In a better draft, he's a second round pick, maybe a third.
I want to go to my next matchup here. It's James Pearce Jr. minus 165 against Jalen Milroe. I went 2 units on this, and I know Milroe is getting a ton of buzz right now, but I just don't buy it. 2026 is such a good NFL draft for quarterbacks with Drew Aller, potentially Arch Manning if he comes out, Cade Klubnik, Lenore Seller, Sam Levitt out of Arizona State. Like, I just don't believe a team is going to be willing to pull the trigger on Milroe in the first. And there's so much bad tape on this kid out there too. Like, there's a lot to like.
So
I love
much.
Jalen Milroe's rushing ability, and this guy is as fast as most running backs in the NFL. But at the same time, go turn on the UCF game from 2023 when he got benched. Go turn on this last year's Oklahoma State game or Oklahoma game or the Pop-Tarts Bowl against Michigan. He was absolute dog shit. Didn't impress in Mobile. Didn't do enough at the combine, including run, to get him drafted in the first, in my opinion. Meanwhile, James Pearce Jr. back in February, many thought of this guy as a top 15 pick. He has been sliding down mock drafts very, very quickly because of character concerns. I'm pretty sure Mel Kiper's recent one didn't have him as a first-round pick. However, I think for a prospect who led the SEC in sacks as a sophomore and also ran a 4.47 second 40-yard dash at the combine, the best among every edge in this class, he will not make it past the Eagles at 32. Guarantee that, because the culture that they have over there with Howie, with Nick Sirianni and the boys, that culture helped alleviate any off-field concerns that we had with like Jalen Carter, who's been an absolute clinic there. And they also lost Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. So I think James Pearce Jr., while he might not get that top 15 capital I thought he would before because of these concerns, I don't think he slips outside the first round. I can't say the same for Jalen Milroe. So, Eric, any thoughts here on James Pearce Jr. against Jalen Milroe, or if you had any on Campbell and Zabel as well?
This one's kind of tricky because you're talking about two guys who have athletic testing numbers that are just absolutely off the charts, right? Mm-hmm. And we see how NFL front offices have a propensity to fall in love with those types of prospects, right? So literally the range of outcomes is so wide for both of these players. But the thing that I want to underscore that you said is there is a 0% chance that he gets past the Philadelphia Eagles at 32. So really what you're wagering here is whether or not someone is going to trade back into the first round to draft Jalen Milroe, right? We talked about our bets earlier. If you guys are sitting there holding a winning ticket for Shedeur Sanders under 8.5 and a winning ticket for Jaxson Dart under 24.5, it's now in play that Jalen Milroe could be a first round, end of the first round acquisition target, if for no other reason than we know that these front offices like to get that fifth-year option by drafting a player in the first round, even if they're a little suspect on them. But moreover, your Steelers are wifing this guy up, whining him, dining him. All of the things that we've seen Mike Tomlin do whenever he has legitimate interest in a quarterback are the things that they are doing at Jalen Milroe in this process.
They did the same for Malik Willis, too, and they didn't draft him.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason I'm kind of out on Jalen Milroe as a first-round talent overall is the hyperbole. I just mean the hyperbole. Why, like, he won't be in the first. Like, once I started hearing he's a better rusher than Lamar Jackson, I was like, y'all are lying. Y'all are lying. Everyone's steaming this guy up, hoping someone, like, trying to smokescreen again. Once those hyperboles come out and they start comparing them to, like, oh, his ceiling is Tom Brady and his floor is Patrick Mahomes. Is it? Because you're thinking of drafting him at 23. Like, that doesn't sound like ceiling of Tom Brady, floor of Patrick Mahomes to me. Like, if this guy was a better rusher than Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position, he'd be a top 5 pick. He's not. So spare me the hyperbole, spare me the lies. Jalen Milroe will be a day 2 pick.
He certainly should be a day 2 pick. It only takes one. I like this bet for the record, right? I'm trying to lay out the scenario by which someone could go up there and get him, because I mean, James Pearce, like, if someone wants to be bold, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Atlanta call his name at 15 or Cincinnati with the presumption that Hendrickson's on the way out the door, right? Like, he's got the talent to where somebody really wants to stick their neck out on the line for him. You can make a defendable case far earlier than you can for anything with Milroe.
Let's stay in this quarterback conversation, but let's shift gears to the market that I know a lot of people like for some long shots, team to draft player. And Eric, you are taking the Saints here, draft Jaxson Dart plus 270 at FanDuel. Talk about this one for me, man, because Steve already kind of touched on it earlier that it's here, we're hearing out of their camp that, or at least someone wants the public to know that they like Jaxson Dart. Bottom line, if that's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of steam around this. If you go back to last week, I had these New Orleans Saints drafting Jaxson Dart, albeit by way of a trade back about 9 picks or so.
Yes.
And I think that's really the rub here, right? I have Dart and Shedeur Sanders as more of a coin flip, but stylistically, I think he fits much nicer with what the Saints are looking to do and the personnel that they would have around him. So I think he's the logical choice for them. Really, what this boils down to is whether or not they have enough belief in this position to pull the trigger at 9, right? If they have to start talking about moving back or out and back in, then all these variables come into play. But if they have the conviction to say, we need a quarterback, this is the best quarterback remaining on our board, we are going to spend the 9th overall pick on him, then getting 270 on that scenario feels like a slam dunk. If someone moves up ahead of him, perhaps, but really, I think the variable at play here is just whether or not they call his name at 9. If I'm Loomis, if I'm sitting in that New Orleans front office, I do it. I'm happy to do it at 9.
Okay. Steve, you're also squad riding with Eric here. Tell me what you're seeing with Jaxson Dart, and then also throw out your other bet that you have for a quarterback to be drafted by a specific team.
Yeah, so Dart, I have to do some inward looking a bit because I don't want to have take lock on Jaxson Dart, right? Like sometimes we as analysts kind of get hung up on a guy and we just don't move off of it. Everything I've watched, everything I've read, everything I've studied just makes it seem like this is kind of the pick, right? Like I don't think Sanders will be there, whether I agree with it or not. He probably won't be. Ward is obviously going number 1, and I don't think they're going to take Jeanty because they just signed Kamara to an extension, and having 2 of anything and 1 of and no quarterback is not really smart at all. And Kellen Moore probably doesn't want to go into the season with Spencer Rattler and no other option. So, he wants to succeed quick. He's used to winning. He wants to succeed. That's kind of where I'm at is the Saints don't have a quarterback. They need a quarterback. And that's the most important position in football. There it is, right? It's easy. As far as the other quarterback goes, plus 1,400 for the Raiders to draft Shedeur Sanders. Like if the Giants pass on him, that just feels like where he's going to land, right? Because there are 2 styles of franchises in the NFL. There are smart ones and there are ones that like to sell jerseys. And for whatever it's worth, the Raiders really love to sell jerseys, right? And slapping Sanders on the back of the black and silver, or the silver and black, I guess is how they put it, that sells jerseys, right? It makes them money, and that's great. And people will turn out and they'll buy tickets, and they just moved to Vegas a few years ago, and they need to fill the stadium, and blah, 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 blah. Right?
That stadium is freaking sweet, man. That is a sweet-ass stadium.
It is. I just got a nice look at it this weekend watching WrestleMania. Shout out to my guys, Rod and Jay, the WrestleMania show. That was fun. I got to watch WrestleMania in that Vegas stadium. It was beautiful, and I think they want a franchise guy. They don't have one. I don't think Geno Smith. No one wants a jersey with Smith on the back of it. Like, who the hell is that? And so, you got to get a name brand on there. So I think plus 1,400, that's pretty good odds. That's a lot. You throw 1 unit on that and you're walking away a pretty happy man.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that at all. That might not have been a bad hedge to go along with my 3rd overall pick there. So I like that call out there. And then Eric, you have one for Ashton Jeanty to potentially fall down the board. Is that what I'm hearing here?
To an extent, right? There's a few ways that you can get here. And like we were talking about earlier, sometimes the best way to unlock upside in these markets is to put together a narrative and to cover all the bases with that.
Sure, yeah.
So this narrative is one where Ashton Jeanty is not drafted at 6 and actually slides into potentially double digits. And whether it's Denver waiting oh so patiently, which is probably very unlikely, or actually getting aggressive and moving up a couple of picks to acquire Ashton Jeanty, I love this number, Denver Broncos plus 2,000 to draft Ashton Jeanty. if you look at their 30 visits, Denver is bringing in running backs left and right. They are deep into the running back market. We know very likely what they're going to spend a lot of draft capital on.
They're like plus
in the
120 to take a running
2025
back, so
class.
not a bad line itself.
Yeah. So now you start playing out scenarios where Jeanty's still on the board at 8, at 10, maybe even at 12. And now it's not that big of a leap to move up from where Denver currently sits. And especially at the context of plus 2,000, right? You can definitely do far worse with long shots than going with a team that is favored to pick someone at this position, getting aggressive and taking the best player on the board at that position.
Well, we just heard earlier this week, I believe it was from Jeremy Fowler or Shefty, don't quote me on it, but that Denver was sniffing around and trying to potentially move up in the draft. So if that's the case, Jeanty is potentially who they're targeting. So I like that call out a lot, Eric. That's a really good line for 20 to 1, a little sprinkle there. Let's go ahead and shift gears, though. We're going to go to the first position drafted by team. I know this is one market that a lot of people really love. I'm going to go ahead and lay out the Chiefs' first position to be drafted, an offensive lineman. I got this at minus 129 at ESPN Bet. I went 2.5 units on it. Last week in our consensus draft, I had the Chiefs trading up for a tackle with that extra third-round pick they got from the Titans for L'Jarius Sneed last year. The Chiefs did trade for Jalen Moore, or acquire him in free agency. But Jawan Taylor is still at right tackle. That dude is a huge liability. Left guard, Trey Smith, also on the franchise tag. So I think if they potentially miss out on these top tackles, maybe they still go after a guy like Gray Zabel or Tyler Booker. And the only other position, like, I wish I probably would have hedged here for the Chiefs to go is running back. Maybe they pull the trigger on someone like Travion Henderson. Steve, you kind of said it earlier, like you go take a running back when you're close, right? But at the same time, I think with ample day 2 picks, I think the Chiefs will choose to draft an offensive lineman. What kept them from winning the Super Bowl this past year? Everywhere else, I saw this like minus 140, minus 150. So love getting it at minus 129 at ESPN Bet here. Eric, and you're also kind of staying in a similar mindset, but with a different team picking very early.
Yeah, keep walking down this same narrative street. I like the Raiders to draft an offensive lineman with their first overall pick. That obviously means that they are not taking Ashton Jeanty, but also I look at them here at 6, and I think that whether it's a guy like Armand Membou or whether it's maybe a player like Campbell slipping down boards a little bit, there are a couple of tier break players at positions of need for them. So to get them at plus 175 is the price tag that I'm looking for, right? I wholeheartely believe that this team is going to focus on building through the trenches, at least in the early part of the draft.
Okay, awesome. Got a couple more bets here. The next one is to be a first round pick market. I'm going with a parlay. I'm going Josh Conerly Jr. out of Oregon and James Pearce Jr. first round picks parlay plus 175 at DraftKings. Went 2 units on it. Already talked about James Pearce Jr. and how I don't think he gets past the Eagles. I feel very similarly about Conerly and the Chiefs. Like if he somehow falls all the way to 31 to them, they have to go with him. I think he could go as early as the mid-teens as well. They just have to hope. Like the only thing we're hoping with both these players is that the Eagles and the Chiefs do not trade out, and let someone come up for a quarterback. I think that's the only way you're not going to make money here. It could be a sweater. Like these guys could go early, or you could be waiting until the 31st or 32nd pick, but I think they will ultimately get their names called on day 1. And Eric, maybe not as confident from you, but you are taking a little bit of a flyer on a cornerback that, if it weren't for an injury, I think definitely would be in this first round conversation more often.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And, we talked about running backs as, being potential luxury picks. Drafting guys that are coming off of an injury that have unreal upside is another type of luxury move. And so I like the price tag that you can find out there for Shavon Revel Jr. Plus 290 to be a first round pick overall. I could totally see, one of these teams that are sitting in the last couple of picks in the first round, taking the risk that, he will get back to the shades of him of his former self, and being willing to expend their own pick on him. But also, I think there's a bit of a practical matter here, right? Looking at the cornerback market specifically, there's a very real tier break in my ranking, at least after Revel. And if we're talking about a scenario where all of a sudden, guys like Johnson are going early in the first round, guys like the kid out of UT, Jade Barron, are top 15, top 18 picks. Now all of a sudden you've got a lot of cornerback needy teams in the teens, in the late 20s that are going to be looking at a guy like Revel as one of the best players available at their position of need. So I just think there are too many scenarios that we could see his name being called to let him sit there at a plus 290 price tag.
Yeah, him and Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, very similar. Morrison was a 2023 All-American and also hurt himself this past year, missed most of the season. So like they're both, I think they could be sneaky first round picks at the end, but I just don't know. I don't know, because we see Barron all over the place. And like I said, I could even see Will Johnson potentially slipping as well. So we'll see what happens here, but I like the call out for a guy, Revel. ECU, you got to love that blue field out there. Kyle apparently did not like that bet because he did not make a banner for it. So apologies there. But Kyle, tell us how you really feel, brother. Last one for me, exact order. I've thrown out this the last 2 years. I haven't hit it yet. So we're going to keep trying until we hit it. I'm going Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, Carter, and then Graham. 18-1 DraftKings, 0.3 of a unit sprinkle for me. Nothing crazy, but this is how I think this top 5 is going to play out. Maybe it doesn't, probably doesn't, but this is how I'm going to take my shot here. 18-1 at DraftKings, continue to build that narrative and follow that main path of the draft that I think it takes. Eric, you have one more bet here. First player drafted by position. What do you have?
Yeah, looking at the offensive line market, I like the price tag on Armand Membou, plus 650 over at FanDuel. Obviously, we see a lot of smoke.
This was just plus 175 when we did our preview a couple weeks ago.
Exactly, right. And it feels like a lot of that has to do with just how locked in Will Campbell is in many mocks to the New England Patriots at 4. But look, Campbell is not a perfect prospect, right? He is kind of the first player in the next tier of prospects. And anytime you jump into that new tier, literally anything can happen, right? The berth that you give front offices in their evaluation skill gets wider and wider as you move further and further down those tiers. And also, Membou brings some versatility to him, right? He is projected to slot in as a right tackle. That's an area where the Patriots can certainly use a bit of help, but also he has the ability, at least projects, to be able to move over to the left tackle side, right? So, there are a lot of teams, starting with the Patriots, that need a complete overhaul and a lot of flexibility in how they approach their offensive line this year. So to see Membou, a very highly regarded prospect in his own regard, sitting here at plus 650 to be the first one off the board, comparatively to Will Campbell and his T-Rex arms as the only thing that are standing in the way, I think this is absolutely something I want to sprinkle.
Yeah, and we've heard that the Patriots have done extensive research on Membou in addition to Will Campbell. So it is certainly not a done deal here for the first offensive lineman to be drafted. Plus 650, that's a really good number compared to what we were looking at. I think even when I was down there in Maryland, I was seeing this closer to like a plus 250, a little bit, around 3-1. So to see it just kind of continue to grow and grow and grow over the past 48 or so hours, that's great to see. That's great value there. Guys, love what you brought to the table from an NFL draft betting perspective. Let's go ahead and let's round out the show here with a little good news. All right, it's good news. These are feel-good headlines from around the football and pop culture world. And I want to stick with the NFL draft. The NFL's smallest market is set to host the draft this weekend. And I think it's one of the most cool and underappreciated aspect of this year's draft is that Green Bay is hosting it. Lambeau Field is legit in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and that entire town has so much history that the first thing you think about when you hear the name Green Bay, Wisconsin, you think ball. And here's a live non-live look, I should say, at the Cena Titletown as of Monday night. This is coming from Cheesehead TV's Corey Bank. Here's a live look at that. It's beautiful, baby. It's looking good out there, man. A little heavy breathing from our guy Corey, but that's all right. That's all right. He's on the scene. He's doing the Lord's work out there. We appreciate Corey. But the fact that they've been moving the NFL draft around has been absolutely awesome. I was there in Vegas in 2022. It was a huge fucking deal, man, with people flying in from all over. I saw people rooting for teams like the Chargers that I didn't even know had real fans. So that was really cool. And like, I can't wait for it to come to the Berg this next year. Steve, where do you want to see the draft go? Like, if you had any choice, obviously, are you probably picking Boston since you're up there?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the easy one. Come to Foxborough. The Patriots do not play in Boston. We play in Foxborough, which is a small town in Massachusetts as well, weirdly enough. Yeah, Green Bay gets all the love. That's like, oh, it's in a town. It's in a town. Foxborough's a town. We do the same thing. So I don't know why we're not getting the same love. And we actually win. So, like, not for nothing. But, like, it's just, you know what? I'm not going to get into that. But I would love to see it to come to Foxborough and show a little bit of love to New England a bit. I think a lot of things avoid New England because they're like, it's cold. And I gotta tell you, I am sweating my ass off. You see how shiny I am this show. I am sweating my ass off in my apartment right now. It's like 72 degrees out right now here in good old Massachusetts. So the weather's perfect. Bring the draft.
Eric, what do you think? If you had to pick anywhere for the draft to go, where would it be? Doesn't have to be an NFL city.
Can we go back to Roger Goodell's basement from 2020 and just him sitting on his dusty Barca lounger?
No, we cannot do that. Come
on. It was so weird. I can tell you where I don't want it to go, Indianapolis. I don't know why they still have the draft. That is not a conducive city to events like this.
Oh, I've heard the combine's perfect. I've heard the combine's perfect for it. So don't hate on it.
I think it works well for those that are evaluating. I don't think it's good as a fan destination.
Okay.
And I'm curious to see how this plays out in Green Bay, right? You mentioned Titletown, the frozen tundra, NFL films, music that plays behind that anytime you mention their name. This is a very small town that is going to see a massive influx of tourism. Detroit last year, depending on who's reporting you believe, had between 750 and 800,000 people in attendance. Kansas City had 300,000. Las Vegas had 300,000. Nashville had 600K. Like,
wow.
Can you just imagine that number of people just getting shoehorned into your neighborhood overnight?
So to put that in perspective, right? So not that it has anything to do with one another, but I went to Pride last year in London and 2 million people went to London. Now this is London, right? It's one of the biggest cities in the world. And it ground that city to a near halt. It was so many people. So I am right there with you, Eric. What is this going to do? Maybe I don't want to see a draft in Foxborough because there is one road in and out of Gillette
I've
Stadium.
heard that.
I don't know how Green Bay has structured getting to Lambeau Field, but if it's anything like Foxborough, the traffic to go there, you might as well walk. You might as well just walk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hope the residents of Green Bay are able to get their houses up on Airbnb and pay their mortgage for a year or two by renting it out for the weekend.
Do what people in Tallahassee did during game days and just let your front lawn rot and then just charge people $40, $50, $60 to park there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine some of those towns and suburbs outside of the city are also going to be packed with their hotels and accommodations as well. But I would think London would be really cool to see a draft. I know some people be like, it's American football.
That's sick.
Keep it in America, but I think London is such a great host city. So I would London would be a good one. We've had New York City, but yeah,
they had their turn. They had it exclusively until what was it, 2015 or 2014 is when they started moving it.
Yeah. So
I will say shout out to the NFL. Moving the draft around,
yes.
taking this thing on the road was
Yes.
one of the better ideas that I've seen them
Yeah.
execute on.
Yeah, let us know down in the comments below where you would want to see the NFL draft go in the future. We want to hear from you. So let us know where the NFL draft should post up in the next few years. I know Pittsburgh on the docket for 2026, but curious to hear where you think it should go in the coming years. And Steve, staying in this this NFL world that we've built here, what do you have from a good news perspective?
Nothing NFL related, but I have. So I mentioned WrestleMania was this past weekend.
Oh, sorry, I said Steve. I meant Eric. My apologies. Go ahead, Steve.
All right, I'm here and I got my guy on the screen. So this weekend was WrestleMania weekend, and I'm going to break away from the NFL for a bit and just congratulate John Cena on setting the record and getting Ric Flair off the history books.
Let's go, John. Let's go, John.
He's a Massachusetts guy. All right, he's from West Newbury. Right, so he's just outside of Boston. He's a local dude, and now he's the most world championships in WWE history. I am just like, I am a fan. I have enjoyed it. I enjoyed his WrestleMania and heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people like Nicolette here at IBT, her and I have discussed maybe making a little trip down to WrestleMania 42 down in good old NOLA in Louisiana, making our way to Bourbon Street for WrestleMania 42. But John Cena has entertained me for the better part of 20 years now. He is a name that everybody knows, whether or not you're a wrestling fan. You know John Cena. You know the meme has lasted 15 years. He's just a pop culture icon at this point.
Yeah, he is.
Like
decent actor, honestly.
Yeah, like he's good in like Peacekeeper and all that stuff. I love John Cena. I love that he's a local guy. I love seeing the local kids make it. Has the most wishes granted of all time with like 600 of them. Like it's like an absurd number. The next closest is like 200. Genie. Yeah, like he's everywhere and he's like the busiest dude. And you know what? He puts in the work and he was rewarded for it. So I am throwing a little love John Cena's way.
John Cena. Steve, were you satisfied with how it all wrapped up? I know a lot of the WWE fans on the internet not so happy with Travis Scott getting involved, and of course, no Dwayne The Rock Johnson as well. So I know people weren't necessarily thrilled with that. Are you satisfied?
I was, because I think people need to realize. So this is what I'll say about this, and I'll try to make it quick. We have a problem in pop culture in general, and I think it's the Endgame effect. I exclusively blame Avengers Endgame for this. So that's that sometimes things pay off so well. There's these massive, massive moments in these long buildups, right? Mm-hmm. That nothing that comes after it can ever really top it, and everyone expects it to match that energy. So last year at WrestleMania 40 was what some people consider the greatest 5 minutes in professional wrestling history, with Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, the Bloodline Rules match, all these like legends and like Roman Reigns' people coming out. And it was like all these surprise people, like The Rock, John Cena, The Undertaker, like they were all showing up, right? It's same thing happened with Endgame. Sometimes you have to appreciate greatness in the moment, something that is truly etched in history, and then realize that it's going to take time to build to that again. You can't expect history to be made every single time these guys step out. So that is where I'm at now, because I find that with Marvel fans a lot, is that they really like to piss and moan that not everything is like, they're like, well, when Endgame, well, because Endgame was Endgame. It was the culmination of like 20 movies and like 15 years. You don't get that every year. You just can't. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, Endgame would be nothing. So I was very satisfied. I thought he accomplished what he said he was going to do. He was a bad guy. He said he wasn't going to entertain us. He purposely went out there and wrote a story in the match, essentially, that was not as entertaining as we were expecting. I think he did a good job as a bad guy, and it satisfied my bloodlust, I guess.
Okay. Eric, favorite John Cena movie?
Oh man, I just forgot every single movie that he has ever been in. The one with Amy Schumer. Steve, help me.
Trainwreck.
Trainwreck, yeah, solid choice in Trainwreck. My wife and I are quoting that movie scene when he's in the movie theaters pretty often.
I frequently just go, the boys make the noise. like way too much.
What about Vacation Friends 1 and 2? I think those are really funny
That was a
movies.
good one too.
Yeah, those were like deceivingly good. Like I didn't think it was going to be good. And even like Blockers, I think that was like a 2015.
I think Blockers is my favorite John Cena movie. I think that might be my favorite. Although I just watched one. I hated most of the movie, but he was really good. It was called Ricky Stanicky on
Yeah.
I
Amazon.
think it's in the trailers for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I've seen parts
awful,
of it.
but
I didn't finish
he's
it. I
good.
didn't finish it, and I like the cast a lot, and I just didn't finish it. So yeah, what does that tell you? But yeah, you can't win them all, Cena. Can't win them all, brother. But we appreciate you, John. We appreciate you, John. Eric, go ahead and round us out with your good news headline of the week, please.
Yeah, some good news for the Bengals faithful. The Cincinnati has announced a pretty hefty stadium renovation plan, or MOU, memo of understanding. They laid out the plan to dump a ton of money into Paycor Stadium, and look, it might sound weird for the younger viewers out there watching, but up until the point where this franchise drafted Joe Burrow a few years back, they had nothing. They were literally one of the longest suffering franchises in all of the NFL, and the ownership group of the Cincinnati Bengals was known for being miserly and cheap and holding on to every single nickel. They never wanted to extend people. They never wanted to put anything into the facilities and accommodations for their players, for their fans in attendance. And now all of a sudden, this is further confirmation that Cincinnati as an organization is turning over a new leaf. Pretty much every single inch of Paycor Stadium is getting some love over the coming 8 to 10 years or so. And part of what I love most about this is the team is pocketing a lot of this expense. About 2/3 of phase one is coming from team-funded projects. The county only picking up about $65 million in phase one. So I always feel a certain kind of way whenever these billionaires are getting welfare from the cities and counties that support them. So happy to see that the Bengals are actually footing the majority of the bill, at least in phase one.
Let's go. The Brown family, the Bengals actually operating like legit business. And
Right?
I agree with you, Eric. I've always kind of found it a bit odd. Like I do understand that it can bring tourism and attraction and help stimulate the economy by building a stadium. But at the same time, it definitely feels like too much of the expense is often a burden on the taxpayers of the city and the county. So congrats to the Bengals for pulling it together. And guys, that's going to do it for us tonight on the In Between Fantasy Football podcast. Thank you so much for everyone who's rode with us. If you have rode with us this long, please do us a quick favor. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the whole damn channel. We've got NFL betting, college football betting, NASCAR betting, PGA golf betting, entertainment betting, all to help you cash more and enjoy the ride along the way. Also, be sure to check out inbetweenmedia.com for some written content and upcoming live events, including Draft Night Out 2025. For Eric Romoff, Steve Lawson, and Kyle Scott, I'm Seth Wilcock. Thanks for watching, and keep it in between until next time, everybody. Thank you.